Hi, this is Keith Davidson at Albertson and Davidson. In this video, I want to talk about bypass trusts. If you look at a trust document that a husband and wife creates, you'll often see that there's various trusts that come into being after one spouse dies. We call these subtrusts. And the purpose of these subtrusts is to divide up the assets so that they can be protected, either for tax purposes or sometimes just for control purposes, especially if you have families where people have kids from prior marriages. Sometimes we want to ensure, as estate planners, that the assets of the deceased spouse are going to be held for the benefit of the surviving spouse. But then once the surviving spouse dies, it's going to go to the proper place, the children usually, of the deceased spouse. And so you'll see these trusts created, and they have very different functions, and they give you as an ultimate beneficiary very different rights. So for example, a bypass trust is going to be the type of trust that becomes irrevocable when it's created. So one spouse dies, typically the entire estate is divided in half if everything's community property, and the decedent's half is going to go into this bypass trust. And that trust is going to be locked in the sense that the trust cannot be amended or revoked or really changed in any way. But it's not going to go to you just yet if you're a child. Instead, the assets are held to support the surviving spouse. So that means income and sometimes principal can go to the surviving spouse for their benefit so they can keep using the assets during their lifetime. And then once the survivor dies, then it goes to the ultimate beneficiaries, usually the children. Now that's very different from what we call a survivor's trust, because a survivor's trust is not irrevocable. That is the survivor's share of the estate. That means that that trust typically can still be amended, revoked, changed in any number of ways, and you can decide to create new beneficiaries for that trust. Not you, but the surviving spouse, whoever has the ability to revoke it. It can all be modified. So you can see that a survivor's trust is very different from a bypass trust, because a bypass trust is a lot more strict. It's a lot more rigid, and it can't just be changed. Now, you do have to be careful, because sometimes you'll read through these trust documents, and a bypass trust can be called many different things. Sometimes it's referred to as the family trust, or the residual trust, or the tax avoidance trust. It has any number of names, but they're all the same thing. Just because they're called different names, it really is describing the exact same thing. And you'll know it's the same thing because when you read the trust terms, it'll say the survivor's trust can be revoked, but this other trust cannot be revoked. Once you see that, you know that you're dealing with some form of bypass trust, no matter what you call it. Albertson and Davidson is here to help you fight for your inheritance. Check out aldavlaw.com for our complete library of helpful legal videos and articles from your favorite California trust and will litigation law firm, Albertson and Davidson, LLP.